Hey guys, it's Vocal Pineapple, and today we're going to be discussing the community reaction to Bakugo's death in My Hero Academia, chapter 362. So I made a post, a lot of people replied to it, quote tweeted it. We're going to go over all that and see like what people's reaction was to all this happening, because we're all still waiting on leaks and stuff. I know it's a little hard, but yeah, let's just get straight to it after that intro. Hit it! So let's see, what was your reaction to Bakugo's death in My Hero Academia chapter 362? I haven't gone through these yet because I was waiting to like react to it so I could react to just kind of all of them at once. So let's do it, let's go. We have good that we actually got some fatal hits, but I do find it weird to go from killing a teacher with such little screen time to killing your secondary lead. That's why I'm not buying him staying dead. That's very valid. I mean, that's one understandable reason from at least the narrative to suggest why you think that Bakugo wouldn't be gone, right? On the other end, I would say that I feel like that is inherent in the tragedy of Bakugo being gone, right? That there was more for him to do that is very sudden. He hasn't really reached the potential that his character could reach, right? But all of that is kind of fuel for the tragedy that his death would then bring about in the series. Chica Supreme, I was traumatized when Ace was killed in One Piece, so seeing Bakugo's death made me sad because he's arguably more integral to the makeup of Class 1A in comparison. I believe in Hori, so I know however he plays this out is for the best, and I feel the same way to a certain extent. I just don't think like there's any going back on this, right? Like that's the one instance where I really don't have faith in Horikoshi. Like the way that he got rid of Bakugo, not because I love that Bakugo is gone, or not because I wanted Bakugo to die, but like since we are here, you know, and things have played out in the fashion that they have, that's why I think that you shouldn't go back on that kind of thing, right? So let's see how he ends up handling it. Zam on Twitter says, all I can say is, he'll live, don't worry. They'll lose money if they're gonna kill him off, especially in Japan, because they love heroes more than the villains. And he has the All Might gift where he's like, hey, what can I say? Nico says, he ain't dead, having a heart is overrated, he'll just pump his blood with explosions from now on. Which I will say, that would be pretty raw if he did do that, right? So, I mean, here's to that theory. It's better than the genist muscle heart thread theory that I see people going on about. That is ridiculous. Dabi says, I think Hori said, oh, y'all want high stakes? And I absolutely agree, especially after that last war arc where everyone complained about like the amount of really unnamed heroes that we saw in the list of the bodies that were there, right? This time, we're definitely not going to have that same thing happening as long as he sticks to landing with this death. Spicy One for All says, honestly, a little skeptical in my opinion. I don't feel like he had enough of a fight or a character moment for this to be the absolute end of Bakugo now. I'm not disappointed per se, but it left me thinking, that's really it for him? It doesn't feel emotionally complete to me. And yeah, I will say again, that's kind of like what the first comment that we read, right? Or the first reply that we read, where it's like, well, there's more for Bakugo to do, realistically. This shouldn't be the end of where Bakugo's story goes, right? But that again is part of the tragedy. If it is the case that this is the end for him, like that makes it sad that there's definitely so much more for him to do, but he's not going to be able to do that if he's not here, right? The most that he can do is like do stuff in the vestige world. Bakugou says, surprised because I wasn't expecting Hori to kill him off in that chapter. After we saw his cluster speed form, I thought we were going to get another whole chapter out of it. But nah, Horikoshi said my boy wasn't that guy. And absolutely not. That's very shocking because usually when a character gets a power up or a new ability or something like that, you at least see them use it for a while, right? Whereas this was just very, he unlocked his awakening and then that was it. Like right away, immediately. He might have done one or two things and Shigaraki got him out of there. Mamadou's blog says, great, but if Hori hits us with some cringe revival, then the slander will be absolutely deserved. I agree to a certain extent. Yeah, like if there's some sort of ridiculous revival that makes no sense and hasn't been set up and it's just like, oh, I see the backlash, I'm just going to do it. It's kind of going to be obvious, right, to a certain extent. So I definitely think that some people going off on Twitter, myself probably included, is going to be warranted to a certain extent. So is what it is. XL Slushy Fanboy says, I'm still shocked we haven't actually gotten a major student death, but I'm happy that it happened even if it's late in the story. Something keeps telling me he won't stay down forever, but I hope Hori doesn't fumble this, because if handled correctly, the impact on his death will be insane. Much agreed. BP says, started to get a little sad and cry a little bit, then morphed into laughter and relief. That's a rather interesting reaction to have. Young Ivory says, gotta say it's really sad to see him go. Horikoshi definitely has a way of sending characters off that hopefully gets transferred to future mangakas. Bakugo's character arc was solely internal and beautifully done. I agree. That is a very well put way to say it, right? That Bakugo there was a lot of internal issues that he had, right, that he had to deal with beyond, like, you know, you're good at everything else. You're great at being a hero, clearly, to a certain extent, right, and great at using your quirk and great at doing all these things, but there was a very, very crucial, kind of critical internal battle that Bakugo had to fight throughout the entire series, much like other characters like Endeavor and stuff like that, right? So it seems like he did reach the end of that journey and the end of that fight, but I do agree that it was beautifully done by Horikoshi if this is the end and we don't go back and kind of retread old ground. Rika says, first thought it was definitely a fake out, still not 100% convinced, but after reading the official scans, got a little teary-eyed with his development. And that's true, Bakugo has come a very, very long way from the beginning of the series. He's become a character that many can respect, you know, and many can understand kind of his intentions and where he's coming from. And I mean, gosh, the reveal with the All Might card at the end, that's where it started to get really sad for me, right? Because it's just like, ooh, buddy. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there with that. And I bet his room is just filled with All Might memorabilia. And that's going to be really sad to see if we ever do end up seeing his room and it's not just destroyed now, right, by Shigaraki all for one. Keith from Local says, still in denial. It's hard to imagine MHA without Bakugo being in the series. He's such a big part of the universe for so many people, which is very true. If he's actually gone, it's going to make all of the slice of life stuff hit hard. And yeah, I mean, a lot of people do complain about slice of life moments and they feel like it's filler and it's extra, but those are the moments that really, it makes sense once you get to this point, right? Where characters are like dying off and stuff like that. It makes you look back on those slice of life moments with a little more appreciation, right? Like, I wish we could have got a little more of this character doing stuff like this actually, if they were going to die and not be able to live to the completion of like their natural born life, right? So I definitely think that is a very, very big intentional part of slice of life scenes, and, you know, scenes where you see characters saying stuff like, oh, let's grow up and be heroes together and stuff like that, like you saw in Tenko's family, or just Bakugo being perfect at everything and cooking and stuff like that. Like, all of that is good stuff to remember when, you know, it finally comes time for people to start meeting the Grim Reaper. Mr. Viper says, I feel nothing. In my eyes, it was so poorly done that it counters the sadness I should feel from my favorite character dying. What gets me isn't he died, but his death won't contribute to saving his allies or defeating Shigaraki. Why did he go back in after seeing Tamaki's cannon dealing 0 damage? And I think he knew he was the only hope at that point, right? He knew the only person who could maybe do anything there in that instance, much like Tamaki thought a little earlier in the chapter, right? Who he was like, if this doesn't do anything to Shigaraki, we're all dead. So I feel like Bakugo stepping in and at least saving everybody for a moment, or doing whatever he could or whatever he thought he could. I think he thought he was capable of more than he actually was in this instance. So that's the unfortunate thing, right? Like, why did Deku run in to save Bakugo in the first chapter? It's very, very similar, right? It's a very self-sacrificial act where you're in a situation where who knows how you're going to come out on top and who knows if you're going to win. And there's not always someone there to save you, you know, just like All Might was there to save Bakugo and Deku early on, but he wasn't there to save Tenko. Well, now we see that Deku wasn't there in time to save Bakugo, and that's what makes it very effective, in my opinion. Yaya says, I want to drop my hero so bad because he's one of my favorite characters, but I'm gonna be honest, if this is not a fluff, this is one of the best and iconic writing decisions in Jump via years, or in years, right? And I agree, it's gonna be very, very high up there if it is stuck, right? Because it's not very often that you see any shonen really kill off the main rival of the series, right? And have that happen when the main character is not even there. It's definitely, at the very least, a very, very interesting writing decision that I think we're going to be looking back on and wondering, like, you know, how is this going to be replicated in the future? Is it going to be replicated in the future? Like, is this going to be iconic and something that we're going to be seeing a little more often because of this opening the door for that? Or are there previous works already where that kind of happens, right? Where we're just overlooking them. That could be the case to a certain extent also. Now I want to read the quote tweets. So let's scroll back up. Let's go to the quote tweets and see what the quote tweets had to say. Waste of a phenomenal character by Busy, Aaron Blim. Rice Lord Roberto says, Horia go, let's go, with a rock. Vogan HSL has Grimjow laughing. Oh man, Bakugo getting packed up. I don't know what this says because I can't read Spanish all that well. It's screaming. It's someone screaming, let's go. Bikino says happiness. That's crazy. Wano says it was a great individual chapter, but when he returns, it'll be one of the worst ass pulls in Shonen Jump history. And I feel like I agree. If he does return, I don't see it. Like, Horikoshi's gotten rid of all the different avenues. Another happy by Octavio. He's gotten rid of all the different avenues for Bakugo to return in a way that's been set up already. So if he does get brought back, it's going to take a hell of an explanation, honestly. Soul, all jokes aside, it's sad for real. And I mean, yeah, when you put all the jokes aside, it is very sad that, you know, young man lost his life before he got to meet any of his potential. And he has all the same ambitions as Deku. And, you know, it's just our main character's best friend got packed up. But that's what happens when you go against Shigaraki. A fitting end to his character, if we're being honest, by Samurai Bunny Naru. It's day 2 of me being sad by Kendra at Delightful Nerd, but I can't deny some of the memes have made me giggle. Yeah, no, you feel a little bad laughing at some of the memes, because on one side, it's sad that he's gone, but damn it, people will make anything sad really funny on Twitter. Shine says, sad, but the memes are funny. Yeah, pretty much echoing that exact same sentiment we were just going on about. Turtle, not a ninja. Probably would have been surprised if it wasn't the talk of the town on Twitter, but I really liked it. I remember seeing a post saying Hori should do a horror manga after, and that panel is just another reason why I want it. And I'm definitely another person who's begging Horikoshi to hit us with this horror manga after the end of My Hero. After a well-deserved break, honestly. You see my username right here. Hori deserves a long break. I definitely agree with that. And don't cry. Don't cry. That is amazing. So beyond all these tweets that you see in this message here, because this is just one post on Twitter, there was madness after Bakugo's death on Twitter, right? There was people crying in multiple like Twitter spaces. There was like screaming, there was fighting, there was a war on Twitter between me and the Bakudekus. That wasn't pretty. There was, I mean, people arguing about theories about whether or not how they think Bakugo's gonna return. I mean, it's just been a massive brainstorming session on Twitter with all the random different theories, from like Best Genius is gonna heal Bakugo's heart with his threads or do some surgery that he's never done before, but it'll awaken his quirk or something like that. Or Bakugo is gonna like somehow heal his heart with nitroglycerin, like super nitroglycerin, because it's quirk nitroglycerin, right? Like, or that, you know, Deku's gonna arrive with a second quirk and it's gonna be a healing quirk. Or that area is going to get airdropped in or teleported in or something like that. Like, there's just a lot of crackpot theories going along right now. I even took my hand at doing a crackpot theory about what I thought was going to happen. You can check my video out on it. But so far, that is the community reaction to Bakugo's death. Now, stick with me. Very soon, we are going to have the leaks for My Hero Academia Chapter 363 to see if Hori sticks the landing, right? If we do end up covering or switching away to a completely different area. So if we switch away to a completely different area, I know it's going to be a hard wait and to see what happens to Bakugo, but this community is in hell already, so I'm sure, you know, we'll survive a little longer. So this is Pineapple. This is the community reaction to Bakugo's death in Chapter 362 of My Hero Academia, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.